All right, this session is about Google Forms and formative. It's You're probably not necessarily ready for making tests or worksheets and stuff like that. So I want to put it on your radar. I want you to be aware of its um, existence so that when you are ready to start making assignments, it's available to you. Some of this will be a repeat from the workshop I gave that optional week about formative or Google Forms, but there will be new stuff. I think a lot of people would be potentially interested in formative, which allows you to take an existing worksheet you have, whether it be whatever it is, you convert it to a PDF, and we could make it into a self-grading or manual grading document. So you don't have to retype all your questions and retype all your images. And so I'm going to start off by talking about Google Forms first, and then I'll go to formative after that. So let's go ahead and begin. Um, so I'm going to skip that. One of the things that Google Forms and formative can do for you, you could have a quick opinion survey. What's your favorite sport? What's your favorite? So most of us have taken Google Forms before as a survey. Um, I don't know how many people have used it actually as an assignment where it grades it for you. And there's lots of features that come with that. It's evolved a lot in the last few years. I used it last maybe 5 years ago, and the features that have been introduced into it make it a lot more powerful. You get to do a lot more things with it. So it's really exciting what it's capable of now. It almost simulates a teacher grading something for you. So opinion survey, quick poll. I've been recommending if kids could use it to indicate that they've sent late work to you, so you can be alerted to that. If you need kids to sign up for something, auto graded quizzes. You can do a combination of auto and manual grade. You can use it for flipped classroom assessments. They could do their reading logs on there to keep track of things, and there's some more other creative things for you. The slide deck is on our webpage for Google Forms, but if you click on this live link, there's 25 practical ways to use Google Forms in Classroom. It's just full of cool ideas. I'm going to start off simple with just a survey, right? What does a survey look like? So I'm going to do it two perspectives. Last time I did this, I had people take the survey. I'm going to skip that. I'm going to show you what it looks like to take it, and then we're going to go under the hood to kind of see the guts of it and the results of it. Okay, so there are many types of questions available to you. So if you get a Google Form survey, typically it will ask you to enter your email address. And then this first type of question is just a multiple choice. How much experience do you have with Google Forms? Little asterisk means it's a required question. You will not let the student or participant advance until they've answered, or won't let them submit until they've answered it. So I'm going to click that. Here you can have the scale. I have 1 through 5. So this is not multiple choice. It's considered a scale. You put your one extreme of the continuum here, the other extreme, and they click on that. A yes, no, maybe question. You can also enter images. So however you want to do that. I find if I want to play with an image, let's say you have an image, but you want to put arrows on it and notate it. What I would typically do is you can use Google Draw. I like to use Google Slides. I just put the image on Google Slide if I want to add arrows and text to it, and then I do another screen capture and save that, and I put it in there. But this, I believe, it says you may choose more than one. So you could have a test or question that has more than one right answer. You can embed video into the Google form. I'll just show this real quick because I think we can all empathize. If you've not seen this before, it is rather amusing.
Because of coronavirus, you are going to be quarantined, but you have a choice. Do you A, quarantine with your wife and child, or B,
B. B. B.
So another choice question. Here is a drop-down menu, and I was wondering what's the difference between a drop-down menu and multiple choice. And as I Googled it, they say basically it saves space, right? You don't have to write all four choices. Drop-down menu, you choose one of them, and you go from there. This is what they call a grid type question, where I've got 4 questions and then I've got 4 choices, and so I'm just kind of clicking through one response per row. If you end up making this a quiz, you can assign a different point value to each row. That's available to you. Similar type of thing. In which seasons do you enjoy the following activities? I think do multiple choices for each row. So right now I'm in survey mode. I am not on quiz mode yet, and so there's no grading involved, but I'm just showing you the types of questions available to you. This type of question is a date question. So what is your favorite date? And so it will allow you to go to a calendar and choose a date. You know, if you're planning meetings, when is all available for a study session. This is a time question where you can select any time you want. And then there is, of course, a short answer question where you can just type and they can type in a response, and then they hit submit. When you could actually see the results coming in live, and so if I click on responses, so we're going under the hood now. It'll show you a summary. It collects all the emails of the people who responded. And then if I had been looking at this while people were live responding, this graph would just continually grow. And so this is just a way for me to gather and look at the data that's been collected from my survey. And it gives you, and if this is something that you can use to help your class, like show them, and it's certainly open to you. If you hover over it, it'll tell you option B. It'll tell you the number of people who chose that and the percent. So it does a really thorough job of giving you colorful, different results. So I'm going to end that with the survey. I'm going to jump more into like a quiz or a worksheet type situation. So even though the one I'm showing you right now is a math quiz, they are easily used for history, science, whatever you want it to be. You can make it work. Okay, and so you have to put it into quiz mode so it will know to grade. So this is a sample math quiz I made. This one says, how long is the missing side? I've got an area 56. Let's see, I think it's 8. Boom. It tells you how many points it's worth, and it just as a side note, personally, what I believe that our grading is kind of messed up in the sense that the A is a 10-point band, B is a 10-point band, a C is a 10-point band, and D is a 10-point band, but the F is like the 60-point band. And so what I kind of like to anchor their grade, I give a really easy question that's worth like 55 points, and then I make that their base grade, and all the questions after that build up to getting them to 100, so that they can't get like a 22%, because that's really hard to recover from. And so I make one question that's like a base weight, and the rest of it will add up to 100 from there. And so that gives them a little hope, right? A reason to study, even if I get an F on the first one, it's only 55 points. I get 100 on the next one. I showed I mastered something. I can still recover my grade. So this is a multiple choice question. The kids can clear the selection and then re-enter something else if they want. This is I asked them, so this was actually a numeric answer. I was thinking that generally in math, I prefer not to have a multiple choice because it's really hard to come up with good, bad answers. And so this one says, okay, rectangle's area is 24, so this is 4. This must be a 6 over here. That must be a 6. That must be a 6. So if this area is 30, this must be a 5. And, kids could type in multiple things, right? They might type in 5. They might type in 5 cm. They might type in 5 centimeters. And we're going to talk about how to deal with all those, because this is an auto-grading quiz, how that's going to look. I want you to imagine for your own subject, if it was a history question or a science question, all the stuff is applicable. This is a short answer question. Here, which of them is true about the missing side? So it is a multiple choice, but you have to get all the ones that are correct in order to get it correct, right? So you have multiple answers. I just said what is true about the length of the missing side, and I have some characteristics. So it not only has them figure out the side length, but it makes them figure out, show me that they know the definitions of the numbers. And there is a way to grade. Tessa, stop vacuuming. And so you can grade for partial credit, right? Later on, I'll show you when you manually go back, if they got 1 out of the 3 that are supposed to be correct, you can change the credit for there. This has multiple rows. Which area in the Venn diagram did each number belong? So 1 belongs. So I've got odd numbers, prime numbers, and combination of the two, or none of the above. And so they're checking boxes here. Each row requires 1 response. Now so that one, only 1 response per question or per row. This one has multiple. Which of the following shapes has a number of sides that is a square number? 3 is not a square number. Rectangle has 4 sides, that's a square number. So is a square. Pentagon has 5 sides, not a square number. Okay, how many places on the on the grid will this T fit? I've got a drop-down menu, I've got choices. And then, is 1 a prime number? Yeah, let's say no. I'll say yes, let's see what happens. Describe the steps for finding the missing area. So I think one way to look for integrity in the answer is to make them come up and explain the response, right? It's easier to copy a single numeric answer. For here, I want them to type in, first I figured out that, this is 16, that's 4, so that must be 4. I figured out 16 divided by 4 is 4, and then et cetera, et cetera. They have to type out the entire response. And I think that is going to give me a better indicator. I think an even better indicator is having them flip grid their response, right? Have this same problem in a flip grid, and they've got to verbally video themselves describing to you the process. So now I'm going to submit for you, and now we're going to go under the hood. What I as a teacher see. When you first get to the screen, so this is the questions itself. I'm going to go back to the top. When I'm building this, I will be choosing whatever the correct answer is. One, I think, really fantastic feature of this is that it allows you to automate feedback. Meaning, I can tell it, because the students are going to get an email back with the results, right? With the right answers, the wrong answers. But in addition, for every right answer, you can dictate what feedback the students get. So for example, on this first problem, they were supposed to know that, well, this is a rectangle, length times width is the area, and so 7 times 8 is 56. So what I did was I put the feedback for our correct answers is, great job knowing that 7 times 8 is 56, and knowing that the area of a rectangle is length times width. So that's what they would see in the corrected paper back, right? In real life, we wouldn't have even time to go through this. We would mark it right or wrong, and we're done. Here we have a chance to give them feedback. For feedback for incorrect answers, I wrote the area of a rectangle is length times width. 7 times what is 56? And so while I didn't directly give them the answer, I'm leading them towards it. And so for all your questions, you are allowed to select your answer, and then you're going to you optionally put in automated feedback that they get upon receiving results of the test or the worksheet. Now, this was a short answer. And what I did was I was able to input short an answer key. And what I put, remember, this is the question where the answer was 5. And I said kids could put different things. So I just put in a whole bunch of different ones that I thought they could put. I put 5. I put 5 cm with no space. I put 5 space cm. I put 5 centimeters written out. And then I can mark all answers incorrect. However, I can override those. So later on, I'm going to show you the grading screen. And let's say they typed in, I think the answer is 5, which is absolutely correct, but the computer didn't read it as one of the recognized answers. I can go ahead and override that as being correct later. But it'll capture hopefully most of them. And then I put feedback for all answers. How do you find the width of the top rectangle? Once you know the width of the top rectangle, what does that tell you about the bottom rectangle? So I'm guiding them towards the right answer. You could put the right answer in there if you'd like. It's up to you. So more of the same. You have the answer key. You have feedback. I want to show you also that your feedback, you could lead them to a video, right? So this question is 1 a prime number. My feedback for the correct answers, I also, just in case they did it by luck, I put, great job knowing that a prime number has exactly 2 distinct factors. So I want them to learn from my answer key. But for incorrect answers, I put, watch this video for an explanation for why 1 is not prime. And I've linked a video that they can watch that fills them in. So you could put a link to a web page, you could put a file in there, you could put a video in there. I think this is super powerful because how often do we get to say, you got this wrong because of this, here's a resource for you to get it right, right? And you can see how this applies for science, why is the sun so hot? You could put a video on there. And so let's now talk about, those are some of the features available to you Feedback, I think, is huge, and using ways to redirect them. Now let's look at the responses. I can look at the summary of the responses, and it just gives me a lot of graphs. All the respondents, you could tell which answers they had more trouble with, or which questions they might have had more trouble with that you can go back and address later. But I want to spend a little bit more time about grading. All right, so I'm gonna go through each of the, not each of them. I'm gonna show you how you would go through some questions. So I clicked on the question tab, and right now I'm on question 1 of 8, and I'm gonna scroll down, and it tells me that 35 responses were 8, and that's why it's checked green. And so those people got the full 55 points. Now notice over here, some people put none of the above. There's 3 people who did that got marked wrong. What I was thinking, because that was initially my gimme 55 points, that everybody should have gotten 55 points wrong on. I could manually mark that right and give everybody 55 points. What I think I'm actually going to do is make a question like, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Make it 55 points. So there's no risk of them getting it wrong, because I don't want to affirm a wrong answer. So you could even say, what's your name? Have them type in their name, make it worth 55 points, and you can just manually crank out that they're all correct. So I'm going to make it correct now, and they got their points. And now 2 people got 17, and so I can manually make that right or wrong. I could actually change that to 35 points. I can use this arrow to change the points. I could type in however many points I want it to be. So giving them partial credit is very easy. So what I would do is I would do that for each question. I can look through the responses. So earlier I said that the responses, the answer was 5. So if you put 5, 20 people typed in 5, they got 5 out of 5. 5 CM, 9 people, they got that right. So this is automatically scored right. This person got 6. This person got 5.5. I can, if I decide I want to give them partial credit for that, I can. I can just click on that, or I could just make that incorrect. This person was trying to mess with me. They wrote V in Roman numerals to see if it would catch that. And now I can say, hey, V in Roman numerals is 5. I'm going to check it's correct. What I would suggest is, if you don't catch something and a student says, I think this is right, just have them email you. You go back to the form and you can override it, right? That gives them avenue. And there's no they can't change it on their paper, erase it, bring it back to you. Mr. Liu, look what I did here. No, it's evidence right on their quiz. And you can say, you're right, I'm going to go back and change it. Or if they want to argue for partial credit and why they should get partial credit, this allows you to revisit and override any auto grading involved. Let's just go to maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and I'll jump into formative. So again, it tells you how many. So this one was, which is following is true. Here I put a response, great job with your chain of deductions. Here it shows that, so they should have gotten these 2, right? They also checked that middle number. So I can decide, well, you know what, they got 3, but there was only 2. So I'm not going to take all 5 points away. And 4 people did this, so you don't have to do this individually. All 4 people that did this, I'm going to override this and give them 3 out of the 5 points. This person only got 1 of them correct. It was correct, so I'm going to give them 1 point. I'm down to 0 because it is an even number, so they knew something. They weren't completely clueless. And then if you click the check, it gives them full credit. So this one says missing 1 out of 2 correct answers. That's what they're missing, so I'm going to give them 1 as well. So you can go back through and just tidy up, let's say, whatever Google Forms has automated in the responses, and you at that point you're using your discretion. And I think it's pretty darn quick because it groups a response. You're not having to go through all 40 people that took it. They grouped all the responses that were alike. And so I think that is super convenient. Let me quickly go now to the short answer one where they were supposed to type something out. So on the last question I was pointing out, I think this one, I asked them to describe the steps for the missing answer. And so at this point, there might be 40 of them because they're all going to type different things. I can just quickly read through them and say, oh, I see the things I need, 10 points. Oops. I check it, 10 points. I'm going to go to this next one. Oh, I see the final answer here is 24. That's right, 10 points. Let's say there was a student, who had the right answer but didn't have any support for it. Right? They just wrote 24. They didn't describe any of the steps. I might say, you know what? You only get 3 points because you got it right. And I believe I can now, for this student, add feedback. So they can get personalized feedback. And so I think that's super powerful as well, right? This was a default feedback, I think. Yeah, this is a default feedback I put for all answers. I can now type, Johnny, you were almost there. You did this, this, and this, if you've done this. And so it's pretty quick. So you can just click save, that'll save that response, and then you're just scrolling through all the rest of them for the rest of your class. Hit save. When you are, and then you can look at just one individual if you want. So that was the question view. Here I can look at one particular person and all of their answers, which you probably is your least necessary, maybe, unless you want to review one with the kids. Go back to the summary screen. Well, first of all, if you notice up here, this means I'm still accepting responses. If I click this off, it doesn't accept responses anymore. So you can say the deadline for this is X date, do it by then. You can always turn it back on later and accept responses, but this is a button that's available to you. See this? I would suggest there's an option that you can immediately send back the tests, which if it's a full multiple choice, might be something you want to do, except for the fact that they can share answers at that point. So there's a button. So if you check, I will manually release scores. You go to this screen, you hit the release scores. That's when all the emails get shot out at the same time. And ideally, it's when everybody's done, right? After the deadline is passed. Then you click release scores. I'm going to click that. And it says send emails and release. And they'll get their scores, their feedback. And remember, anything that you do in here, if you've posted on Google Classroom, the score automatically goes in Google Classroom, right? And then when you go to Aries, you'll be able to pull the score from Google Classroom into Aries. So theoretically, you will not have to write it on your roster and then use your 10 keypad to enter in Aries. It will just involve a bunch of clicks. So that is Google Forms. Now, I'm going to now go to Formative. Formative has basically all the features of Google Forms for the most part, except it has this added feature of being able to take a PDF that you have. Let's say you've already made all your tests for the year in previous years, and you want to just convert it over, right? So I'm going to click New Formative. That's the title of the app. It's called Formative. It used to be known as Go Formative. I'm going to click the plus button, and I can at that point just start adding questions if I want. An image, short answer question, multiple choice question, and those are all similar to Google Forms. But what I'm really going to point you towards right now is enhancing a PDF, Doc, or Google Doc. I guess you could do Docs and Google Docs. I didn't know that. The only limitation without going to the premium account is that you can only upload 20 pages per month free, which may be fine and enough for you. But I'll also let you know some of the premium features that are available to you in a little bit, but let's go ahead and enhance a PDF. So I'm going to upload a PDF of a math test from my computer. And just give me a second to navigate through all this. It's my EdTech folder. It's my almost there. Boom. So I PDF'd it. I guess I didn't need to. I could have just used a Google form if you already made it there. So free uploads remaining. I've got 20 pages to upload. Okay, so here's how it's processing. And what you're going to see in just a moment after it processes is my PDF, right? And so it's 4 pages long. And now, how do you make it into a question? You're just going to take your arrow. And so notice here's number 1. Here's my problem. Here's a spot I have for the answer. I'm just going to click here because I want an answer there. And I can put, at that point, I can choose multiple choice, short answer, whatever the type of question I want to be. Let's say I want short answer, and it's created my first question. And I can add a correct answer in here if I want. Now, in the premium features, and I just took a quick glance at this, there's a show your work option. So you can make it a show your work type of question. where they actually have to write out and show all their work for you to see. If you're willing to pay, I want to say like $10 a month. So I just created one question, right? Another interesting ability they have is that you can tag the standard. The state standards are pre-populated in here. So I can check off which standard it is for the Common Core standards and choose it. And this is for every subject, right? So you don't have to do that, obviously. I'm just gonna, so I can change my type of question to one of these types. Now I wanna make my second question. I want my second question there. This time, let's say I want multiple choice. Boom, I enter my choices. I'm just gonna do this quickly. So every time you want a question, all you're doing is clicking the spot where you want a question, and it creates a new one for you. So if you look up here, I've already created 3 questions. So I'm just going through, and if you want to just create all your question spots first, and so it, again, it doesn't have to be a multiple choice. It could be a history test, it could be whatever. They're just gonna see this, your actual test, but they're populating the answers in the formative area, which formative will grade for you. And I believe you can also manually grade the short response questions. So the only reason I'm touting this is that's a super feature, because my colleague tried making some Google Forms over the summer of a test that we had, and it involved a ton of cutting and pasting, like screenshot, cut and paste, screenshot, cut and paste. And this does it in one file swoop if you already have existing documents. And so I think it's a super handy feature. If 20, if you want to look into getting the premium, or if 20 pages is enough for you for a month, you can go with the free version. And so that's, I believe, it's GoFormative, GoFormative.com. Well, okay, yeah. Another premium feature of them is Google Classroom Passback. So it doesn't default unless you pay them to send things back to the classroom. So I'm just going to quickly go through the rest of my slides. I think that's basically what I have for today. If you click on my slide deck later, there's an example of what they mean by a show your work problem. If you're interested in that, they give this example of, what are the branches of government? The student drew the 4 rectangles and showed how that worked. Premium account, again, has advanced problem types. It auto grades partial credit, whatever that means. Google Classroom Passback and show your work problems, as well as the unlimited pages. And all of the rest of this is just, you can refer back to it, but it's the how-to, going through how to set up your actual quiz. You'd have to designate it as a quiz to make it self-grade. Again, lots of types of questions. My intent for all of my slide decks is they're kind of an instruction manual, and that's why I'm just zipping through it so you can access it later. But again, you may not be ready to build this now, but I want you in the back of your head as you're thinking in a week when I'm ready to give homework, this is an option for you to do. It actually will make your life easier because you won't be collecting papers and grading, and it'll be auto-grading at least part of it for you. It potentially can. You're sharing these through Google Classroom. It somewhat can, if you want to even take pictures of your textbook as a PDF and have that be your route to getting the kids submitting their work, So that's all I have. I finished in half an hour, and I don't know if it'll get too wild if I go to Q&A, but I'm going to say this. How about if you want to leave, you can leave, and I will open it up now for some questions. I know this is dangerous, but yeah, so I'm going to give you the ability now to unmute yourself. We'll maybe raise your hand, and then Hassan, start us off. Can you unmute yourself?
Actually, I created a couple forms, but somehow I cannot get to the options you have. I only can create questions. It doesn't give me, I don't, where do I put the answers? Where I put the feedback?
Okay, so great question. You basically need to go to, you have to, in your initial settings, I'm gonna call it when you go under the hood.
Yeah.
I'll show you right here. As you're creating the questions, um, right here where it says, I think it's right here. Let's see. Change settings, right? I'm going to go back.
Okay.
Change settings.
Mm.
Quiz mode. Make this into a quiz. Without quiz mode, there's no answer key. You have to make it into a quiz. So that's the
Okay.
first thing as you're setting up you should do is to change to quiz mode. And a couple other things. Release grade is here. I don't think you want it to do it immediately after submission. I think you want to do it later after you've had manual review. Respond. And so just I'm pointing this out to you because it's not, you have to scroll down to see them, but respondents can see missed questions, correct answers, as well as point values. I have those all checked. But yes, you do need to make it into a quiz or else those abilities will be unavailable to you.
So I have to go to change settings.
Change
Okay.
settings and make it into a quiz. Yeah. Okay. David, do you guys have the ability?
Gotta unmute again.
Go for it.
Okay. So video responses. I'm interested in those. One of the concerns is if we use Flipgrid, then when you embed the Flipgrid, they have to go log into it. They got to remember their password. It's going to extend things. Is it very easy to integrate? Can we embed just a link that takes them right to the start recording button?
Are you talking about Google Forms at all, or is this
right? You were talking about that you can use Flipgrid for a video response within.
Oh no,
Google
not for this one. That was a separate topic. I was saying if you wanted to do questions with Google with video responses, Flipgrid is a better option. I don't think you can record videos on here. Though I think there's a type of question. Actually, this came up earlier. I think there's a type of question where you could have the kids attach a file to it.
Okay, but that's going to be a little complex. The other one is within Formative, and you were selecting types of answers. There was a video option on the left. I was wondering if it has the ability to embed video.
Like a video for the kids to embed, or you to
right,
embed
for the response.
That I don't know. I'd have to look at it.
Okay, let's assume no. Thank you.
Okay. Sarah.
Hi. I also have two. One is, can you get Google Forms and Aries to talk to each other directly? Like, could you import quiz scores from a Google Form quiz?
Well, if you have posted your Google Form on Google Classroom, that score automatically goes to Google Classroom. Right? And so then from Aries, you pull from Google Classroom and you're set.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah. Thanks. And then the other thing is just like thoughts about, kids are all on their computers, they're taking their Google Form. If you actually want to try to make a Google Form quiz, like thoughts about ways you can actually structure so students are less likely to, like, I don't know, just be talking to each other and enter the same thing. Like, I know you can randomize question order. Is there anything else you can do to kind of mitigate, like, academic integrity issues?
Yeah. I think that is going to be a huge question worldwide. And I think we are actually a little bit later than a lot of schools, and we're not giving tests probably for a week or two. And so I think as schools that started 2 and 3 weeks ago are now kind of like, teachers are all over Twitter and everywhere reporting and sharing ideas. Maybe we'll get more ideas at that point that we can use. I feel like, from me, my perspective, I think middle school and high school, it's slightly different balls of wax in the sense that when I'm doing 8th grade math, I just go on whole spiel about, you can get away with stuff very well. However, the only person you're really fooling is yourself, because if you don't know your 8th grade math, by the time you get to 9th grade, even though your A's show on your transcript all the way through, you're going to really screw yourself for the future. So it's getting on my soapbox and saying, it's your learning that's at stake. We don't know if you're actually even on camera. You can get away with a lot of stuff when you're doing learning in your room, but really think about your future as far as your next grade, think about college, think about your career. And yes, that A is important, but actually learning is more important in the long run. And so until we have a foolproof solution, me articulating that, I probably can't catch you cheating, right? But I really don't want you to suffer because of that indiscretion, right? You put in the work, it's going to help you way more in the long run. So it's more teaching, educating, and preaching a little bit. And also, I think then also giving them retake opportunities and second chances to demonstrate mastery relieves that pressure, right? If I screwed up on the first test, but I can retake it and still get an A, because now I've shown that I've learned the material and reassuring them of that, and then emphasizing learning. Hopefully those will work, but I don't know of any technological safeguards that we can put in place right now. I'm hoping that, yeah. So that's my
Thanks,
two
Mitch.
cents.
Yeah.
So if we have nothing else, people can actually get on there and just start experimenting, right? Try it. My slide deck leads you to those two sample quizzes. If you want to try to take them, just see how they feel, or you just start creating it. I mean, there's no harm. You can always delete it later. I would strongly suggest when you make one, just send it to yourself, have yourself take it, and just see how it feels. Try the auto grade, try the automated feedback. I think it's a fantastic program in what it's capable of. And so, I mean, you can almost give people use it for exit tickets, just to check for understanding so I know what to work on the next day as I'm preparing my lessons. It's a really quick, easy way to get a pulse on student learning. And if students, ultimately it comes down to that. If they understand, take quizzes and tests and assessments as a pulse of their learning and not this number that defines them, hopefully that helps them shape what the quiz is all about.
So Rich, that sounds like a great suggestion to use it as an exit ticket. Would you just embed a link to that form in your slideshow then when you're on Zoom, or what would you
Yes, if they could any link that they can click on will lead to it. So whether you disseminate that link through Google Classroom, actually, if it's a quiz, you should definitely, if it's an assignment or a quiz or a test, you should definitely do it through Google Classroom classwork so that grade will populate there, right? You don't want to do it on your slide deck.
I'm just talking about, okay, so just, for
Oh,
simple.
exit ticket. Yeah, exit ticket you can do on your slide.
So when you're doing when you have the slideshow, you're asking your kids to have your slideshow in one tab and Zoom, their slideshow open in their Chrome or whatever, and then be going back and forth between Zoom and your slideshow. Is that what you're asking them to do?
Depends if you want them to take that exit ticket right then and there, right? When Jen and I were first starting these PDs, we would put our bit.ly URL off of the slideshow right on the slide so people can go to it. But I realized if I'm already sharing screen and you're looking at it, there's really no need for you to pull it up unless you need to interact with it, right? So I would say if they don't need to interact with it, don't even bother. If they can see your slides from your screen share, don't make them open up themselves. If you need them to actually do something, and it's either, if it's for points, have them go to Google Classroom, access it. Though, there are times where you're going to share a slide and everybody puts in their bit, we all want to see it, and they are going to have to use that skill. But I would say less fumbling with that, the better, because it is some minimizing opening can get frustrating for some people.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, people. It is actually Friday, even though all these days kind of blur together nowadays. I hope you find some fun ways to spend your weekend. Please email me if you run into questions or as you're making quizzes and tests. Remember, you can always share these you could add collaborators. So if you're in a department and you're making stuff together, you can each add your own pieces. Or, and another piece is that this is just a tip as we're in this age of doing a lot of collaborating and sharing. There's these shortcuts where, when you share a file with somebody and you don't want them to edit it, sometimes they do anyways. There's a shortcut trick where, and it's kind of hard to describe, but if you look at the URL for your file, let's say you have a Google slideshow, and you look on the menu bar, the address bar, that last section on the far right end, it'll say /edit and then a whole bunch of numbers. If you delete everything from edit on and type in the word copy and then send the link to your colleague, when they click on that link, it'll force them, they won't even access yours. It forces them to make their own copy right away, which is great for protecting it. Second tip related to that, if you delete everything, leave the front end up to the last /. So everything on edit on, you delete, and you type the word present or preview, it puts it into a preview mode. So let me just show you. As I shared my screen earlier, notice this slide deck, I didn't use full screen. I can still access, so I don't like, if I had gone to my regular slideshow and pressed present, it fills up my whole screen, and then I can't access any of my tabs anymore. So I'll let it load. You see it consuming the entire screen, as do I, right? And it's fine, but if you want to actually access the other tabs, it's not so convenient. Ooh, let me show you some other thing while I'm at it. You guys are getting bonus because you stayed around. This is a feature I just saw this morning. Let's see if it pops up. Check this out. You see the bottom of the screen? It is live transcription of whatever I'm saying. And it looks like it's pretty darn accurate. And so that only works in full present mode. So if I put in full present mode there, and once the slide finishes loading, there's a little button that says CC, and it'll live close caption everything you're saying, which I think can be potentially super useful. And you see that it's not taking a whole lot of my screen. So that is pretty cool. Another cool thing that I learned today also is that Zoom, I think they really are listening to us, in that in the next few weeks, they're going to roll out a feature where you, as a teacher who's hosting it, can allow students to self-select their breakout room groups, and they can go from group to group. So kind of an exciting new feature. They said it's rolling out either in late August or early September, but I encourage you to go to your Zoom every so often and hit the update. Oh, so I was saying I got lost. But this screen allows me to go from tab to tab, right? So I have the word present at the end of my slide. And if you really want to be cool about, there's a thing called Sir Links a Lot. There's an extension. Watch this. I don't yet. So this allows me not to even have to type it. I click on Sir Links a Lot, and I want it to either force copy or preview. So it's basically going to create a link for me. So I'm going to click preview, copy to clipboard. Now I just open a new tab. If I paste it in, it'll already create a link for me that does the preview mode in the tab. So you just got to download this little extension. It's called Sir Links a Lot. But again, you can do that manually. It just saves me a few seconds from having to delete. So I was talking about deleting things. I think you can see our address bar, right? No, sorry, not that one. This one. This is your editing mode. I can just delete all of this. Can you see that being deleted? Up to the word edit. And then I either type in the word copy when I want somebody to force copy, and then I just put in my email, send to my colleague. They won't touch my original. It won't change. When I change it, they just get their own copy. Or I type in present. So if I type in present, so we can either use the word present or preview. So it goes into this mode. And this is the mode that I suggest that you use when you work with kids, is this present mode. So just a little life hack for you, or a bunch of life hacks. Anything else?
You have a video on the EdTech page, right? Also, if I need to review this.
Which piece?
The whole
this whole session.
Yeah.
This whole session will be on as soon as So incidentally, if you're recording sessions, I recommend recording to. So back up. Zoom allows you to record your session, right? I recommend recording to the cloud. It'll give you two options once you're on Pro, which is imminent. Record to cloud or record locally. I ran into a problem a couple weeks ago when we first recording these sessions, because if you record to your computer and it's like a 50-minute video, it takes like half an hour for the computer to process it. And so I found that my next session started in 15 minutes, and all of a sudden my next session was super laggy because the computer was using all the CPU memory to process the video I just made. And so whereas if you record it to the cloud, it goes to the Zoom cloud. And how you access those is, first of all, once it's done processing up at Zoom, which your computer does none of the processing, you'll get an email saying your Zoom meeting is ready. You go to zoom.us or you follow the link. Yeah. And from there, you can just share that link with your students to watch. And that, I believe, is also password protected. So that only if you have the password, you can access it. Now, you could also, if you want to, go ahead.
Sorry, in terms of using the forms the way you were just explaining, I was in another meeting and hopped in like a few minutes late. So if I wanted to review this tutorial, do you have one already recorded, or is this the only one?
This is the only, well, you know, I did a similar workshop a couple weeks ago and that's posted, but this one has more to it. So wait till, once this is downloaded, I will upload it to YouTube and then put it back on the page. And so I'll
Thank
put 8.20.20 formative and forms.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right.
I got a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so given my misunderstanding earlier about what you'd said, I was in the forms presentation a week ago. So I like the idea of getting explanations from students, and you can do random sampling to make sure they're not just copying and pasting their answers. So you're saying that really we can't use forms for that? We should be working just from Flipgrid, or can we integrate them? Even if you haven't done it before, I'm thinking.
Forms is just for video. No, sorry, Flipgrid is just for video. I just was suggesting Flipgrid as an alternative. But now that you mention it, I suppose if somebody typed in a short answer question response and somebody copied and pasted that short answer response, you would see two versions of it. And you know one of them has been compromised, right? And so that is actually what, I mean, of course, after the first test, they'll realize they just need to change one character and it'll show us a separate response. But at least at the outset, if they don't figure it out, copy and pasting won't work because it'll show up as two responses saying the exact same thing, which theoretically should not happen for a sentence.
So, but if we wanted to say, explain how you solve this problem, if I wanted to integrate that,
I would go to straight Flipgrid.
What's your thinking? You're more familiar with these tools, so I'm just going to describe the need or the appetite. I've got an appetite to have people respond with text, but also include a video. Do you have? I'm getting used to these tools and figuring out how I'd solve it. But you're already familiar with them. How would you solve it?
Flipgrid has added a feature where the students, instead of just filming themselves, I believe they can have a whiteboard that they actually write on and type on. So if you want it to be a combination of them talking through something, that is Flipgrid. Anything that you want audio or video from them, I would go Flipgrid.
Okay. And is Flipgrid so easy to use that I could integrate it in other things, like put a URL into a Google form or a URL someplace else where they click on it, it takes them to a Flipgrid prompt?
Yes, it'll ask the question and then click on add my video and they'll film the video and click submit and they're there.
Okay, so the question, that's right, the question is embedded in Flipgrid, but I can link to it from here.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. All right, people.
Oh, your transcription, was that just, what software were you running that was doing the
No software, that's a feature that Google Slides offers. So when you put it in present mode, it'll have a little CC on there. You just click CC, you turn it on.
Oh, for Google Slides, thanks.
Rich, can I ask you, are you saying, sorry, I have my video off.
No, it's okay.
Are you saying that that Flipgrid is possible to use without having kids all log in on the Flipgrid website?
The website is one avenue to reach. I am 90% sure there's also a Flipgrid app. And so,
but I mean, like, say I want to embed a Flipgrid in a presentation.
Oh yeah.
Say, click on this link and do the Flipgrid without them having to go. Does the link have to make them sign in?
The link will take them to the Flipgrid site.
And they'll have to sign in.
Yeah, and I think you would want them to sign in so you can identify who's submitting the Flipgrid.
Oh, I see. Okay. Right, I'm just concerned about adding another platform because I feel like I have so many for them already. It's just like one more hurdle to get to it. But what do you think about that? I
hear that. And I want my response to say, oh, it's super easy, super convenient. I mean, it really, I will describe, at what point do the kids get overwhelmed? I think that is, you have to kind of put your finger on the pulse of that. I think there's definitely a good wave of teachers that tried Flipgrid out in the spring. And so there's familiarity there. And I think you probably won't be the only teacher who tries it. And so it's like, it's their world. I mean, it's new and overwhelming to us more so than them.
Okay.
Well, Jeannie, I would, sorry to jump in here. I would agree with that. I think there's enough teachers using it that, and they get used to this stuff pretty quickly.
Cool. Way more quickly than we do.
Yeah, yeah. I used it for a couple weeks in the spring and it was like instantaneously working and fun and
wow, awesome.
Yeah. So they're very, they're not, they're not click hesitant. They're not afraid of just pushing buttons and figuring it out. So nobody had a problem with it.
No one likes typing.
Well, you know, it's their world, right? It's the educational TikTok or Instagram, right? They're used to doing that. They're used to filming themselves, and now it's just like, let's use it for a practical, productive reason.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
But you can review the videos before you let them watch it.
You don't even have to let them watch. You could let them know this is, and that makes some kids feel better, right? I had some times where, like, can you not have shared this? You know, you could say this assignment is just you and me. It's just you're submitting your work to me. This is not going to be public at all. There could be other ones where this is a performance. If you want to be public, I will put you public. There's no requirement. You could just be it's just like submitting a Google Doc to you. Nobody else sees it, right? And so definitely there's a moderation button that says the teacher must approve of it before it goes public, and you could never approve of it to go public, right? But you know, you can still offer a response. You can quickly record a video response. There's one click of a button. Hey, great job, bye, and next one. You know, so it's really short of we can't do it face to face. This is the next closest thing. But yeah, I think it frees some kids to know that only the teacher's seeing. I promise you, I'm not going to post. I'm not going to show any other teachers. It's just me. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your thoughts. Your thoughts are important to me. I want to hear your accent. You know, your fluency.
Great tool for language. You know,
yeah.
Really great.
Okay. All right, people, go try to relax.
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks for coming. And
thanks for all your help.
Yeah, feel free to email any questions. Bye.
Bye.